Hello and welcome to GTO Coach and Go. I'm Jim Dellaman with Group Travel Odyssey. I want to thank you for joining us again today for this one is part 2 of cruise bookings in GTO. Before we get started and before I bring Corey out today, I want to remind you, as I always do, to make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Ring the little bell. You'll be notified anytime that we have new content on our YouTube channel. You can also connect with us on LinkedIn at Group Travel Odyssey and make sure to follow and like our Facebook page as well. Well, I want to get started because I know we've got a lot of information to share, and this is part 2. So we're going to continue from last week when we started talking about cruise bookings in GTO. So let's bring on the director of Group Travel Odyssey, Corey Vries. Hey, Corey, how you doing?
Doing great.
Excellent. Most excellent.
The humidity finally calmed down here in South Carolina, so we can breathe again a little bit better.
Well, you kind of sent it our way. It was nice yesterday, but today in New York, the humidity is back up again. So, but it is summer. What do we expect?
True enough.
So part two of cruise bookings.
Yes. To end up sweeps week, we'll have our part 2. We ended on a cliffhanger, and I'm going to recap for you real quick. Yes. On last week's episode, we talked about cruises and that how you started them like a normal trip, but instead of selecting adult or senior adult senior price or student adult price, you picked a cruise price. And I'll go ahead and share my screen and sort of remind you of what that looks like in our system. It will look like this, hopefully.
Okay.
So here's our trip. It was a demonstration trip, but we were going to the Bahamas. And our pricing type is cruise, just like we said. And this trip form is just like any other trip form. So nothing new here. But instead of proposals down below, we have cruises. And we added a cruise. So we're going to go into that cruise and look around a little bit. And just remind you that we added our cabins and a drink package and some port charges, gratuities. We added a hotel. We added a meal deal, and we added a clinician just for a group price, I think. We added this is the cruise itinerary that we added under this tab. We added an airline. We put in our pricing levels. We came up with package costs. We set up a payment schedule. And when it was time, we were ready to push this to Trip Manager. Now, there was a button here that said Trip Manager. The last thing I did was almost press it. Well, I went ahead and pressed it before this because it takes a little bit of time to actually go through the process of creating a trip. And I will let you know that what this does is not only does it create a trip in Trip Manager for you to now book, but it also took and created sort of in the background hidden a proposal, because that's where a lot of Trip Manager's information comes from. So basically what we do is we create a proposal in the background and push that over to Trip Manager. And I'll show you why in just a second. That's super important. But if you see this cruise show up on your proposals list, that's why it's there. You don't want to access it from there. You want to access it from here. But just in case it shows up on a list, you'll know, oh yeah, I'll go to cruises for that instead of here on proposals. So we've done that. And what we have now is a button that says go to Trip Manager at the top. And when we press it, we're going to be taken over into the Trip Manager. We know that we've changed because we've changed colors. Trip Manager shows up here at the top. And we are at that. And just like normal, the first thing you want to do is update your passenger numbers. The difference is you probably didn't have passenger numbers when you were building the trip because all you cared about was what the price was. But now you kind of want to say, you know what? I need to say how many passengers I think we want on this trip. It can either be exact, like you would on a trip that's being sold, or you can guesstimate. It doesn't really matter. But in order to book things, you have to know how many people are going. So let's say we're going to do 40 adults. That's going to open up the rest of the Trip Manager trip for us. So before we couldn't see anything, now we can. And this looks just like any other Trip Manager. And I'm not going to go through booking processes. I'm not going to go through any of that stuff. I'm just going to do the stuff that's related to cruise. the first thing that's related to cruise, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of my itinerary. The first thing that's related to cruise that you'll notice that's different is here's your hotel, here's your Applebee's, here's your clinician, right? So you've got to book these things, but you'll notice that now Carnival Cruise has become a thing to book because we assume that you're going to book with the cruise line that you're using. So we have gone ahead and created a product sort of in the background of cruise to go ahead and book. So that's thing one that you need to be aware of as far as that goes. Thing two is now that there's a new tab right here called Cruise. And if we go there, we're going to see some information. First, we're just going to see that cruise itinerary. We're going to see the cabins that we've chosen, and we're going to see payment schedules. So here's your packages. Now, the system will generate all packages, but we didn't actually want quad or triple supplement. We didn't actually put in those. I'm going to go ahead just real quick and get rid of those. And what that can do now is sort of keep me on task with what I have. I have cabin 1 double single, cabin 2 double single, cabin 3 double single. These are the balconies, these are the outsides, these are the insides, and here's the price that came over. Now, as you book it, this book price will change. So you are welcome to use the book price or the budgeted price will remain in effect until you do, or you can set a custom price. So I mentioned to you that if you don't want to use the price that's in our system, you don't have to. Here's where you're going to want to enter that information. And you can do that either by grid editing this page. So if I go to grid edit here, and I want to charge a custom price of $3,000, I can override that to be the case. Now, I'm not going to do that for this, but understand that you can also set up a maximum number of cabins that you'll offer in each one, as well as you can add these to WeTravel through the grid edit. So when you use WeTravel, if you're using WeTravel as your booking platform, then you want to add the package to WeTravel. Now, just because you sent all 3 packages over doesn't mean you're actually going to sell all 3 packages. You might have just been testing out something, or you might have wanted to see what the prices are. Whatever it is you want, you have the ability to not add to WeTravel the packages that you don't want to. You can also choose which one you want to use, your budgeted, your booked, or your custom. So you'll notice that I put in $3,000 here, but that actually wouldn't change anything unless I said, I want this to be my custom number. We're going to still go ahead and use the budgeted for now, but you have the ability to do all of that in this grid edit form. However, one of the things about cruises, and it's depending on how you set it up. If you remember, I said from last week, I said that you should set up your payment schedule before you go to send it to Trip Manager. And here's the reason why. Inside each one of these packages is the selling schedule. So I'm going to go into one and look at it real quick. So here it is. And basically what I have is I'm using budgeted, which means that this is the price that's coming through. This was all on that sheet that we saw earlier that we were grid editing. But down here we see the payment schedule. What the system will do is it will take the dates that you put in, the deposit, second and final. It will put those amounts into a spot and then calculate your last payment for you. So this one happens to be $1,872, right? So we set a deposit of $200, a second payment of $800, leaving $1,872 to hit our $2,872 price. And that's great. That's exactly what we want. So no problems there. But now you have to ask yourself, is that what I want to do for all of them? So let's open up the single package. So now what we have is a deposit of $200, a second payment of $800, but the final payment is $34.46. If you want to spread these payments out, like let's say you want them to be larger payments because this is a more expensive package, you can do that by simply grid editing this and changing a number. Once that's done, and we go back to the trip, right? So what we've got is we need a total of $446. We're charging $1,200, so $32.46 is what we have left. So you're able to alter those payments for each one of the packages. If you are a person that has a flat, say, $250 deposit, and then the rest is due at a specific time, no matter what your package is, then you're golden because all of those will automatically calculate for you. But if you want to say, I want my payments to be larger for the for the larger packages, you can do that. Let's look at another example. Let's look at single balcony. So here we have our original 200, we have our original 800, but the final payment is $46.80 in order to reach our price of $56.80. So if you wanted to spread these out or even add a payment, you can do that at any point in time. So instead of changing this one, let's say I'm going to give this one another payment date. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select a third payment. I'm going to say that due date is July 17th. I'm going to make it for $1,000. I have to make sure that I choose the same selling amount, the related selling amount. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill this down. I'm going to save this. We're going to go back to our table, and you're going to see now that instead of $46.80, they only owe $36.80 on their last payment. We've added a payment in. So you can either change the payments and the amounts that they are. You can add payments in for packages that are more expensive, or frankly, you can simply leave them alone and charge a deposit and a final payment and be done. And that any of those options is fine. You're saying to yourself, what happens if I set a payment schedule that goes over the amount that is owed? Like if I set a payment, let's say R2, I'm going to go to this double cabin right here. Let's say we went in and we edited this second price to be $3,000. And you're like, but that's more than they owe. Yep, I am well aware of that being the case. So now what's happening is oh, I didn't make it enough. Hold on. Let's make it $4,000. You'll see payment plan adjustment is needed. And in fact, when I go to the cruise, you'll see at a glance which one is not working. So if you have a negative balance at the end of your, like if when they've paid everything they owe you money, then the payment plan needs to be adjusted. So the system is going to alert you when there's a problem with your payment schedule. And then I would need to go back in here, and I'm going to adjust this one. Now, you may have noticed that I've done this now 2 different ways, right? So I have entered in. So if you just wanted to look at it and you're not sure and you're like, oh, no, I need to make a change, you can grid edit this report. If you're going to make changes to all of them in some capacity, like you're like, I want to do something to each one of them, right? I want to add the custom price. I want to put a maximum in, and this goes to WeTravel, by the way. If you wanted to do all of that, then you can hit the pencil button. It'll bring you in here, and you can adjust this grid this way, but also in a maximum number, also do cabin pricing. So you can do all of that at one time if you'd like. Either way works. And once you've done that, once you've done all of that package pricing adjustments and things like that, you're going to follow the steps to go through booking everything, right? But you want to send it to WeTravel too. And nothing has changed here. You're going to open up your WeTravel options. And you're going to say, okay, here's your booking deadline, right? Your max number of travels. You want to add something in here. We've said, I think, 40. That's our maximum number. Actually, why would we do that? Well, let's do 50. Let's make a little more money. We think 40 is going to go, but hey, if 50 want to go, that's no problem here. If you want individual payments, you check that. And then you change anything else on here that you normally would change. So this works just like it normally was with WeTravel, with your questions, with your insurances, with your paragraphs, except for here. Now you'll look back and you'll see we're back at that same grid. So if you wanted to, you could wait until you got to this point to do your package adjustments. I don't like to do that myself because I want to make sure it's all set. Because if I make a mistake, this is like the last rest stop on the highway before the desert, right? So if you miss it here, it's going to go over to WeTravel. You're going to have to adjust it over there. But if you did it beforehand, when you got here and you're like, you know what, I forgot to do something, then you would be able to check it. For instance, I want to add these packages to WeTravel. Right? And I can change the name if I'd like. I can change the description if I'd like. I can do any of those things. So when I click create trip in WeTravel, it's going to go through the rigmarole of now sending it over into WeTravel. Now we know that takes a little bit of time, so we're not going to go over that today. But it will now create it in WeTravel for me, as well as I can send this to group accounting, which I'll go ahead and do. That will take some time as well. You'll always know when that's done, by the way, in case you were ever wondering, when the buttons to go to those two places, passenger manager and group accounting, when those two buttons show up and a date is put here in WeTravel, then you know you're getting close to being where you want to be, that it's close to being done. So when I go to group accounting now, basically, you'll notice that I have the receivables set here, right? So you're able to start doing the receivables for anything. Final invoicing details is the same. You're going to notice that you haven't taken any money, but once this all works the same. There's nothing different here. Your product payables will show up when you've entered them in as you book it. All of that stuff is here ready for you to bring in, just like you would in any other trip in group accounting. Passenger manager, same thing. This is ready now to take in your WeTravel customers. I could go to it, but I have to put a picture on it first, so it's not going to show you anything. But it will set it up in there for you. You'll be able to see your passengers just like always. But you'll see that your pricing plan and dates are sitting on here just like normal. And you're ready to go. So once you get it in a trip manager, and the only changes you have to do are how to set up your booking deadlines or your booking your payment information.
Yeah.
Send it to WeTravel just like normal.
Oh wow. So that's not really all that much. Once you've put it into the sales manager part of things, once it goes over to operations, there's very little that's different. So that's good. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We made it that way on purpose so that you learned a little bit of different. Now, I may have mentioned this last week, but if you just receive a flat double single rate from a cruise line, that's just like everybody gets it. No, like they're all in inside cabins. They're all The only reason you would want to do a cruise in the cruising platform is because of the different fees, the different way to calculate, the different cabins are. When that occurs, I would use cruises. But if they come in and they say, here's the rate for anybody who's traveling that's single, here's anybody who's in a double room, this is their rate, and they've included everything in that price, I would simply use the proposal like normal.
Yeah.
Because as we have built out cruises, it's in its base, it's in 1.0, let's say. So we'll add functionality as it grows and gets better, but we needed it up and running so that you could go ahead and utilize those features. But eventually what's going to happen is, it'll do more. But in the meantime, use proposals, because proposals has much more functionality, much more power to it, much more flexibility in what it does. If you get from your cruise provider a flat rate for a cabin, and that's it. We know that that's true, especially in the tour operator business or the student tour operator business, where instead of getting a bunch of different cabins, your students just get a double price or a single price, and that's it. And yeah, that's so. Think about it when you are using, like, deciding which to use, I guess is what I'm saying.
Right. Excellent. That's really great. I mean, it's interesting because I know that talking to people and going through demos and stuff like that, when people are asking about it, they seem to feel it's going to be a monster to have to add cruise packaging and doing things like that. But I think that over these past 2 weeks, we've been able to show it's not really much of a monster. You just have to understand the few differences that there are when you're putting the trip together that will calculate everything in the right way. So that way you'll have everything where you need it to be. Your margins will be where they need to be. You will not affect specific areas of the package itself, depending upon the rooms and stuff. So, I mean, those calculations, everything are happening behind the scenes, as long as you are inputting your information correctly and in the correct places. So
correct. Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic. Corey, thank you so much. That was really, really fantastic. And it's good to see, like we said, that once you're in operations, there are very few things that you have to do. We Travel ends up being the same. Passenger Manager ends up being the same. It sends things to group accounting in the same way. So, everything else is the same. It's just a few minute details that we had to go over. So I appreciate that very much. For all of you watching, again, if you do have any questions on any of this, please contact us. You can send an email to our help desk, help@gtonetwork.com. Put help in the subject line. If you have any other questions on cruise packaging or anything else, by all means, reach out to us and let us know. Also wanted to let you know that for these summer months, we're going to be choosing some best of episodes of GTO Coach and Go. So in 2 weeks' time, we will start those. You will be getting information on and links for those on in your weekly update. And then they will also be replayed on our YouTube channel as well. Fast Break is taking a summer hiatus. So you will, if you ever need any of those episodes of Fast Break that we've already had, go to your community forum. They're in the community forum. You can scroll through those. You can go up to the media in the community forum and pull them all up and scroll through. So, there are resources there. And then coming after Labor Day, we've got brand new episodes of Coach and Go and brand new episodes of Fast Break that will be debuting right after Labor Day. So until that time, Corey, thanks again for joining us today. For all of you out there who are watching, thanks. Have a fantastic, we're right before July 4th, so have a fantastic July 4th. And we will see you live again right after Labor Day. So thank you so much, and we will talk to you guys soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching this episode of GTO Coach and Go. We invite you to stay connected with Group Travel Odyssey on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn, and be sure to check out more of our media, including Destination Dispatch and the Destinations Beyond Expectations podcast. Please visit our website, grouptravelodyssey.com, where you can learn more about GTO and request a demo. Group Travel Odyssey, business without boundaries.